welcome to episode 7 of ISPC Tailboard Talks. I'm your host, Mark. My co-host, Jerry, is actually on assignment today doing some filming for us, so he will not be joining us today, but we'll make a go of it here anyhow. We just might not have some of the jokes that Jerry always throws out there, So first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor of today's podcast, which is Bierer in South Carolina. Bierer is a USA-made, family-operated manufacturer of almost 40 years. They produce the absolute highest quality, lineman-proven, safe, dependable, accurate voltage and phasing meters, secondary testers, cable identification tools, ground testers, high pot tools, custom temporary protective grounds, jumpers, and pole guards. You can find them at biermeters.com. Again, that's Bierer, B-I-E-R-E-R meters.com. If you need to reach their customer service folks, you can go to customer_service at biermeters.com. And they can also be reached at 803-786-4839. Again, Bierer, excellent family-owned company, have used many of their products. If you haven't heard of Bierer, please check them out. You will not be disappointed with their equipment or their service. Okay, so today on ISPC Tailboard Talks, a little bit later in the episode, we have a guest with us, Annie Wittenberg from Northwest Public Power Association, and we're going to talk to Annie about the power of associations. We're going to talk about how power associations, what they do and how they support their members and so on. So we'll get to that shortly. But first of all, we're going to jump into our ISPC Tailboard Talk topic for this episode. And being that June is Fire Safety Month, we're going to cover some basic fire safety tips that apply both to the home and the workplace, no matter where you're at. So first and foremost, obviously, is overloading circuits. So we definitely don't want to overload circuits. Extension cords should not be a part of your permanent solution. So if you have extension cords installed in your home or your workplace and they live there and are gathering dust and other kinds of dirt, they have probably been there too long. If you need more receptacles or outlets than the ones that you currently have, we recommend at minimum at least using a power strip. Gives you the ability to have its own internal circuit breaker in case you would overload that circuit. But ideally, obviously, if you need more outlets and receptacles, the best option is to have some installed by a licensed electrician. The other thing to point out about adding on to permanently installed outlets or receptacles or any type of electrical circuit is there is a current capable maximum there, right? So whether it's 15 amps, 20 amps, whatever the case may be, just because you have now plugged that power strip into that outlet and have an additional, say, 4 to 6 outlets available, does not mean you can all of a sudden overload that circuit. So keep those things in mind. The next one is GFCI outlets near wet locations. So ground fault circuit interrupter outlets provide extra protection to the user in damp and wet locations. They're required by code in kitchens, bathrooms, garages, crawl spaces, basements, laundry rooms, and also outdoors on the exterior of your house. They are required by code. Now, if you have a house, obviously, that was built 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago, you may not be up to code at this point with those GFCI outlets. On the construction side of things, or on the work side of things, 1926 404B1 of OSHA requires the employer to use GFCI equipped cord set assemblies or an assured equipment grounding conductor program to protect their employees on construction sites. So while we're regulated on the workplace side by OSHA, we're regulated on the residential side by the things there around GFCIs. We obviously want to keep flammable objects away from our electrical outlets. Outlets do produce heat, albeit very small under normal conditions. But if something should occur, a short or a fault with that receptacle or outlet, very quickly that heat will increase significantly. And if there is flammable material nearby, obviously that becomes a source of ignition, which leads to house fire or fires in the workplace for that matter. And we always want to unplug at home our small appliances and small devices when not in use. Okay. The big one that a lot of people I don't think really think about is our cell phone cords. It doesn't take much to just unplug your cell phone and run in the morning. And really, the proper way is to also unplug that charging cord. There have been cases in the past of fires starting by portable electronic cords being left plugged in with no device. So you're not taking that available current and using it, it's just sitting there. Other things, obviously, hair dryers, curling irons, toasters, mixers. Even in the off position, these things can use small amounts of current. And so the best practice is to unplug our small devices and appliances when they're not in use. Same thing in the workplace. If we have portable power tools and so on that we're using on a job site, and it's okay to leave them plugged in throughout the evolution of a job while you're using them, but after that we should be unplugging those things and storing them properly till the next time we need them. Retire our older appliances and tools, right? If these things are seen their better days and show signs of things like frayed cords and maybe the appliance or tool sparks when you turn it on or gets very hot when you use it. If your lights dim or flicker when you turn an appliance on, that's a very good indication it's time to head to Walmart or Target or wherever you do your favorite shopping and replace that product. Not so much we got to worry about this now in the middle of summer, but we want to limit the use of space heaters. This used to be a big problem in the workplace. I know the company I work for, you'd walk into the office and everybody has a space heater plugged in under their desk because the office area is too cold. Okay to have them short term. We recommend running them at half power instead of full power. It helps to prevent, overload with the circuit or the outlet that you're using to use that space heater. And we also want to only use those devices when the area is occupied. If you're going to walk away for a while, you're going to leave, you go to bed at night, whatever the case may be, we really need to unplug those things and help to prevent issues while you're not around or while you're sleeping. And then the last thing, schedule an electrical safety inspection. You can contact any licensed electrician in the area where you live. Look at it this way, inspection is a minimal cost compared to burning your house down. Take that opportunity. Especially if you have an older house, if you have a newer house, maybe within the last 10 or 15 years, you're probably good on most of the building codes and electrical codes and so on. But, older facilities, older houses were not built to the same standards and codes that we're using today. So just some things to hopefully keep you safe when it comes to fire safety, both at home and in the workplace. And, hopefully take these things into consideration to keep you and your family and your workplace and so on safe and secure. And, we don't want to see anybody have a unwanted fire. Okay. So let me give another shout out here to our sponsor, Bierer Meters. So Bierer also has a support assistance program. So Bierer USA Utility Support Assistance is Bierer's one-of-a-kind, no-cost service to the electric utility industry, including professional customer service, technical support, repairs and calibration, live line conferencing, on-site field training, speaking at tool and work method committee meetings, safety conferences, and seminar presentations, and our exclusive 30-day tool trial. Again, beermeters.com. You can visit them there. You can reach out to their customer service, customer_service at beermeters.com, and at 803-786-4839. I have personally used their 30-day tool trial. It's a very good service. If you're thinking about purchasing a piece of their equipment, they will ship it out to you. The only thing they ask is you pay the shipping and handling. You can use that tool. You can pass it around your company, let other people use it, make sure that the tool you're about to purchase is the tool you really want to purchase. So a very, very good product and service from Bierer Meters. Okay, the time we've all been waiting for. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Miss Annie Wittenberg, who is the Learning Program Manager for Northwest Public Power Association, NWPPA. How you doing today, Annie?
I am doing great. It's great to be here,
Awesome.
Mark.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Annie and I have a little bit of a background. We've done some work together in the past, and so I know Annie fairly well. And I guess to start with, Annie, let's just kind of talk about or fill us in on what your journey has been, what kind of the path you've taken to get where you are today, just to give people a little kind of background of where you come from and what your experiences are to get to the point where you are today as NWPPA's learning manager.
Excellent. I'd love to. So I started out my working career at the Army Corps of Engineers, the Dalles Dam on the Columbia River, as a GS1 clerk typist back in 1990. And I worked for several years for the Corps of Engineers at several different projects and got eventually into the student trainee program. And I wanted to finish up my degree in environmental science. I was working on that at the Hanford program office. We all got riffed. We got laid off. But I was living in Yakima, and the Army has the Yakima Training Center there. And so I just walked in and talked to the boss and said, "Hey, I'm about to be riffed. I'm almost done with an environmental science degree. Do you have a job for me?" And he said, "Yeah, actually I do." He had hazardous waste manager, environmental compliance person job vacancy, and I was nowhere near qualified for it. But he was able to create a ladder position. Man, he was one of the best bosses I ever had the pleasure to work for. So I got up to where I was the environmental compliance manager, hazardous waste manager there on the base. And I loved that job, working with the soldiers, just to make sure that they could complete their mission while keeping us fully in compliance so that we weren't shut down for, you got to comply with the rules, but you have to make it. My mission was to make it so that they could do their job. And I really learned customer service there. I treated the soldiers and their mission as my customers. And also the regulators were my customers, so I had to make them happy too. Anyway, loved that position. But then it became time to start a family. And I was lucky enough to be able to take 17 years off to raise my kids.
Wow.
I've got 3 great kids.
Cool.
Yeah. And then it was eventually time to go back to work. So my kids weren't quite out of school yet. I didn't want to move. So I went back to work for the U.S. Forest Service in environmental compliance again, writing environmental documents like environmental impact statements and environmental assessments. That was less fun. The customers are not as pleasant.
Yes.
Nobody likes the environmental documents. And it's just such a long and grueling multi-year project.
Mm-hmm.
You never get done. There's no finish line. And so I did that for, 4 years or so. And then I was now an empty nester. My kids were all out of the house. And my folks started facing some health challenges and things. So I wanted to move closer. And so I found the position at NWPPA, and I applied and got the job. Coming to work for NWPPA really, to me, feels like joining the family business. My dad, my uncle was a lineman, and my grandmother, same side of the family, was a customer service rep at, I think it's called Puget Sound Energy now, but I can't remember what it was called back then. Anyway, my dad really admired his brother-in-law and wanted to be a lineman too. But his mom and my mom said, no, you're really good at math. You should be an engineer first. And then if you want to go become a lineman, you can do that later. Right. So my dad is a power engineer, electrical engineer. And he had a 43-year career in public power. When I was interviewing for the job at NWPPA, Dad reminded me that when he was in his last semester of engineering school, about to start his last semester of engineering school, I was a tiny baby. And he said, we were just broke. I was out of money. And so I went to my advisor and I said, I can't afford my last semester of engineering school. And the advisor hands him a scholarship from this organization called NWPPA. And Dad applied and got the scholarship.
Nice.
Then later in his career, he served on our board of directors. And then my sister is actually a general manager of Hood River Electric and Internet Co-op. Anyway, I applied for the job, got up here closer to family, and I'm in the family business. It's really cool. I grew up talking about transformers and substations and power lines with Dad in the car and at the dinner table. And now I'm still talking about all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I got here.
Okay.
I've been with NWPPA since July of 2021. So I'm coming up on my 3rd anniversary. Yeah.
Essentially, you have two families, the family that you grew up with in the power industry and now the family at NWPPA. And
yes.
I found it interesting, too, how we had another guest on a couple episodes ago who kind of got into the industry similar to you and just walked in the door and said, I need a job. And so it's interesting how, taking that initiative to go after something you want is there if people are willing to take that initiative, right? I think
100%.
I think today, especially today, now that was a while ago and so was his, but I think it underscores the importance of being able to promote yourself and go after what you want. In this digital world we're in today, everybody wants to send an email or send a resume or apply online and do all those things. And I get it that most organizations these days, you do have to apply more times than not online. But it just shows the power of, if I want to go after something and I want something bad enough and I'm willing to put myself out there, good things can happen.
Yes.
When you do that. So I think the importance of understanding communication and being able to portray yourself as, hey, I can do this, or I want this job, or give me an opportunity and I'll show you I can do it. And I think that's something we're starting to slowly lose, not just in our industry, but across the board, of having that one-on-one, face-to-face verbal conversation. So I found that interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that completely. And I think you're right. It's starting to be a lost skill. Mm-hmm. And my kids, they're 21, 23, and 25 now. Yep. As particularly my oldest is learning that. Yeah. If you really want the job, you show up in person and talk to someone, or you make a phone call. But texts and applying online are not enough.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, essentially, I think applying online is simply that. That gets your information to the employer. After that, you got to go above and beyond if you really want to stand out.
Yep. And you really have to just reach out and ask for the opportunity, I think. That very first job, that GS1 job, was another public power connection. It was the manager, I can't remember what his title was, but at the dam.
Okay.
Had worked with my dad at one of the utilities. Okay. And I knew him.
Gotcha.
He came to my wedding.
Nice.
Called him up and said, hey, do you have any jobs?
Hey, sometimes
make those phone calls.
Again, I think it's just you can take the meaning of our episode today in several different ways, right? The power of association. I mean, we're talking about public power associations today, but, associating yourself with good people, quality people, every acquaintance or encounter that you have with somebody in not only in this industry, but in any industry can always be the first step to something positive, whether it's in your career or just in your life in general, whatever the case may be. The same thing kind of happened to me in where I'm at today at ISPC. And that was just a fluke encounter with some of the members of ISPC at a conference. And it half stepped back. It started just a little before that when I reached out for some consulting on a grounding policy for the company I work for. But really, from that, kind of got the invitation, hey, why don't you come check out our conference? And, then further conversations there and down the road at future encounters. And it just goes to show the power of what we can accomplish if we all kind of join together and move, whether it's a public power association, whether it's as the utility industry, whether it's as companies working together. Something we've talked a lot about in the past couple episodes is partnerships. And when you talk about safety and when you talk about training and when you talk about anything in our industry, storm response, whatever the case may be, it takes all of us to overcome those obstacles. I don't care how big a company you are. There's no one, or organization or association, there's no one entity out there that's going to solve the issues that we deal with day in and day out. It's going to take all of us.
Yes.
With that, tell us a little bit about NWPPA, kind of what, maybe a little bit about how they kind of became what they are today, and then we'll dive into kind of what they do and what they provide and so on.
Okay. Well, NWPPA was founded in 1940.
Okay.
So we're a not-for-profit regional association representing and serving the collective interests of consumer-owned, locally controlled utilities in the Western United States and Canada. Our mission statement is we exist to enhance the success of our members through education, training, public information, governmental relationships, and value-added services. And we want to be the leader in promoting the value and benefits of consumer-owned, locally controlled utilities.
So I was doing a little poking around your website the last couple of days, just kind of preparing for this, and kind of to build on that, I was curious. Say I was a utility out in the Northwest, whether it's a municipality or a customer owned or a investor owned or a co-op, whatever the case may be, can I become a member of NWPPA if I want to be part of your organization?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have two categories of membership: utility membership, and that's for the public, not IOUs. IOUs can still be a member, but they're in a different membership category. So let's focus on the not IOU electric utilities right now.
Okay.
So currently we have more than 150 public power utilities in 10 states, members in, all of the West except New Mexico and Arizona.
Okay.
Everything west of that, and British Columbia.
Okay.
So let's see, your question was, what does that do for a utility, or how could you become a member?
Yeah, so I guess let's start a little bit about how, if I'm an organization out on the West Coast there and I'm not part of NWPPA and I say, hey, I see the power of being part of this association and this organization, and what do I got to do to say, hey, sign me up. I want to become a member and take advantage of everything you guys have to offer.
Well, our website is the perfect place to start, nwppa.org. The About Us page talks about benefits of membership, but for a utility member, we send all of those folks straight to our executive director, Kurt Miller. He's amazing.
Okay.
He's just terrific.
Okay.
And we want you to go straight to Kurt to talk to him and talk
Yeah.
about all the benefits of membership. And so
Okay.
what are those benefits of membership? Training. We want to help utilities retain and grow their quality workforce, their employees. So we help you retain your quality employees through excellent training and education. We had more than 300 training events last year, and we had nearly 10,000 people in those classes. A lot of times new employees to the industry, any industry, say professional development is absolutely key to them. And customers, your utilities customers will appreciate better service.
Yeah. So just kind of, I guess this is kind of an off the cuff question, and not, you may not even have a response to this, but just something I was thinking. I guess, if I'm an organization, whether it's in the West and kind of, let's call it in your NWPPA territory, or whether I'm in there's a Northeast Public Power Association. There's associations all over. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago in Oklahoma for MISO, which is an electric association in Oklahoma. And so I guess the question that kind of pops to the top of my head is, if I'm in one of these territories and I'm able to be part of an organization like NWPPA or these other organizations, and again, you might not know the answer to this, but I almost don't see a downfall of being a member of one of these organizations because of the resources and so on that they provide. Do you have any thoughts on what keeps people from wanting to become a member?
It must be financial, because there is a membership dues. Although we talked about the utility dues structure.
Okay.
I don't know what utility member dues are. It's based on the size of the utility so that it's not cost prohibitive, based on your kilowatt hours and meters and stuff. But I don't deal with that. Associate membership is every other kind of member who supports our industry but is not a utility, a public power utility. So an IOU or Bierer meters or another association like the Institute for Safety and Powerline Construction.
Yep.
All of you guys could be associate members, and the membership fee is so reasonable. It's $750 for companies with 4 or more or 5 or more employees, and it's like $450 for a year for companies with 4 or less employees.
Okay.
And membership, the benefits are the discounted training. It's steeply discounted. Okay. So the main services that we provide, and we're a nonprofit, we're trying to keep everything as affordable and the best value for our membership. So training and education, the special thing about our training is it's just not an off-the-shelf class. It's specifically for utility employees. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of great customer service or hazardous waste management or all kinds of different classes out there, or safety classes. But ours are all very specific to the industry, to electric utilities.
Okay.
And so we're not wasting your time. And we get the best instructors like you to provide very specific, tailored information. And, most of our instructors have been in the industry, have worked the trade or the job, and then come back and teach. Our average course evaluation score on the content of our training, the average is 4.73 out of 5 stars. So wow. I think that speaks well to what we're managing to do.
I think if you're 4 or above, you're probably in pretty good territory. I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah. And we're constantly working, surveying, talking with our membership to say, what do you need? And we also tried to deliver it in the most cost-effective way possible. So the courses, some of the substation courses you and I worked on last time were what we call a regional class. I guess it's anyone can register for the class, and we move those around to different locations. But any class that we offer like that, we can also offer as in-house training.
Sure.
And so that saves your entire workforce their travel costs if we just bring the instructor and the class to you. And sometimes we do a split or a hosted class where it's at your utility, but say you only have a handful of employees that want to attend, but you can open it up to other utilities
Sure.
from anywhere that can come. So we just work really hard to find the exact right fit for what the company needs. Another good example is a class. One of our utilities reached out to us last year and said, hey, I need a class, some training on interconnection of residential solar and battery energy storage systems. And we want our whole staff and everybody involved in the process. So we contacted one of our instructors. We set that class up. They loved it, but we knew other utilities would. And so I offered it as a class now that other utilities can attend. And the utility that signed up for it ended up hosting it. So it's open to others to attend, but their utility has 12 people attending, and they even invited their local electrical inspectors to attend so that everybody's on the same page from the beginning. I'm really proud of setting up things like that are super specific to what the utility needed.
Yeah. And again, just, going back to the power of collaboration or association. And I like the fact that, I like the fact that not only was it the customer or utility asking for the training, but they got the inspectors involved. They got everybody involved that has a say in this process so that there's no surprises, right? Otherwise, that utility or customer goes out, does their work, the inspector comes in and says, yeah, you're in left field, man. You got to change this. You got to change this. You got to change that. It's just, wasted time, wasted material, wasted costs. So perfect way to do training and the importance of asking, what do you need or what can we do for you, right? To make sure that you're supporting your customer as best you can. It's no different in the work we do at ISPC is, I think it's very important when a customer comes to you to listen and figure out what they really want, because we know we can all go deliver training. I mean, okay, I want training on whatever subject, and we develop a course and we go deliver it, and it doesn't hit the mark. And really, in my mind, the only reason for that is because we didn't have enough communication. We didn't really identify what it was that you really needed. And so at the end of the day, it was a waste of my time as an instructor. It was a waste of the participants' time as coming to the training, because they didn't get out of it what they really needed. And I think it's a very important fact to remember for us trainers, training organizations, which although NWPPA isn't per se a training organization, you do, schedule and set up and host and so on training for your members. And if, like you said a little bit ago, if you don't ask, what do you need and what can we provide you? How do you want it delivered? You can put on all the training in the world. I know you and I talked about some classes you've had in the past where just nobody showed up. And, if you're not giving your customer what they need, then it's really a waste of everybody's time. And then when you do have the flip side of that as well is when you do have the time or you do nail the let's call it agenda, people are going to be like, last time I went to one of those classes, it wasn't that great. Why is this going to be any different, right? And so it is so important, especially the first time, to nail that so that people say, hey man, I want to go back to it. Not that session, but any future training sessions. I want to go. The last one I went to was great. I got out of it what I needed to get out of it. And I think it's just so important. And I'm sure you've been through them. I know I've been through tons of them, trainings that were just, I wouldn't say terrible, but definitely didn't hit the mark. There was a couple in there I could probably label as terrible, but it just leaves a sour taste for training and education in your mouth. And I think you get to a point where you say, I'll just figure it out on my own. And that's really not what we want people doing, is just trying to figure things out. That's where
Yeah.
I think part of our industry is in that work zone where they just kind of figure things out, or they've done it this way forever. And so they'll continue to do it this way, even though they might not be doing it to the current standards and so on. So important.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably one of the top most important functions of the learning program managers, is to spend the time
Mm-hmm.
talking to our customers to figure out, our members, what they actually need. I mean, it's fairly easy to book the conference room and schedule
Yep.
everything
Yep.
and make the class happen logistically. That's easy.
Yeah.
It's is it the right class for the right audience
Yep.
at the right time, at the right price, in the right venue for this group? I remember, I think it was the year before you joined us as a substation instructor, most of my substation classes did not fill up and I had to cancel several of them. But I was brand new and I didn't realize that I was scheduling them at times that would work really well for linemen.
Yep.
Substation people are not on the exact same schedule as that.
Yeah.
And so, oops,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, there's definitely a time of year, when workloads are really high. Right now we're coming into storm season, right? And so if you're trying to deliver or offer training to people that do their major function is storm response, you're going to have trouble filling those classes because they're all out running all over the country responding to storms, right? So they're like, sorry, we're not turning that down to come sit in a classroom for 2 or 3 days. And like you said, every work group is a little bit different. So
Absolutely.
understanding when to offer that training, it's a little bit different when you're an internal company and you kind of know what your people are doing and when they're doing it. But when you're serving customers, or in your case, an organization that's serving its members, understanding when those high peak work times are and when work's a little more slow right now, and we can offer some classes and get these guys. And unfortunately, normally one of those times is in the middle of the winter, right? When there's not, also, unless you have indoor facilities, not the greatest time to offer training, right? Who wants to go stand outside and look at electric utility equipment when it's 10 below zero and the wind's blowing at 30 mile an hour? So some challenges there
Yeah.
with, there's really a very
Yeah.
concentrated, I'd call it 2, maybe 3 times out of the year when we can offer good quality training and not be affected by work and weather
Mm-hmm.
and those type of things. So it's a very tight window to make it work. And so,
Yep.
like you had
Yep.
mentioned, you guys did 300 some training sessions last year. I mean, that's pretty impressive to put on that many and make those go. Because that's the other thing, we run into it all the time. We get the phone call the day before, hey, I just had to send all my crews to Florida because a hurricane hit, sorry, got to cancel the training, right? So it's a tough balancing
Yep.
act, because usually, unfortunately, training is the first thing that goes out the door when things go wrong. We'll get it next month, or we'll get it
Yeah.
next year, or whatever the case may be. And I get it from a financial standpoint and such, but sometimes it's frustrating because our people really deserve to be properly trained and well trained and be confident in the work they're going to go do. And so, I sometimes get a little frustrated when those things happen, because it's important that we keep our people, up to speed.
Yep. And I think as we build relationships with our members, with our instructors, we
Yep.
learn all of this, the nuances, and we find ways to make it happen more reliably. For example, the substation boot camp that you and I have coming up
Mm-hmm.
in the end of October in Kootenai, Idaho. They built a beautiful new indoor training facility.
Sure.
So we don't care what the
Yep.
weather's like in the end of
No.
October in Idaho. It'll be great. And that worked well for the audience. And when we were at that class in Centralia, those substation classes, on the lunch break, we had lots of conversations with the guys there about the more information you can get. Is this time frame good for you? How's the content? I think on that substation security class there, that's a great example. That was the first time we'd offered that.
Sure.
And you and I were kind of guessing what they really wanted. And I think the general manager said, let's do 2 days. Some of the guys in the class were thinking, this is a little more than we needed at our level. But that's okay. We learned that.
Stuff. It's really, and I think, those are some of the things. And again, that was, believe it or not, over a year ago we did that, I guess, right? Almost 2. It just
2 years ago,
emphasizes the importance of asking those questions, right? It happens even at our company. I'll get a call from my boss, Mac, and he'll say, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. I'm like, well, did you ask this question? Did you ask this question? Did you ask this question? Well, nah, we'll figure it out then. Well, hold on, time out. We need to figure that out now so that we can propose the best plan moving forward for that customer. And it's understanding again what your in your case members need, and in our case what our customers need. We really just need to be sensitive to that. So
one more little thing we should touch on if we have time, you can is, aside from training, another really important part of what we do is our committees. That in order to put on, we have a whole bunch of different committees. And one of my committees, I have two big committees that are mine, but the Engineering and Operations Conference and Trade Show we put on every year. It's about 1,000 people, like almost 1,200 this year.
Wow.
It's rotates. It's always in April and rotates around from Spokane, Reno, Tacoma. It was in Tacoma this April. Anyway, that conference is our biggest event. It is planned by a committee of volunteers. I have a committee of 36 people. 5 of them are associate members, and then all the rest are utility employees. And they're from all our 10 member states, and they're new in their career, younger employees. They're very senior employees. They're mostly, we don't usually have any general managers, although there are some general managers now that were earlier in their career on that committee. That it's a huge career development opportunity. So anyway, they serve on the committee for 3 years, and they plan the Engineering and Operations Conference content. I handle all the logistics and contracting and all of that, and I guide the committee. But they're the ones that really come up with the content, the theme, and that's best because they know what their utilities need. And we have 24 some educational sessions, like 50 minutes and some a little longer. They are the ones that, what do we need information on? Who might be a good presenter? Oh, hey, I know this utility did a project with this engineer or consulting firm, and that would be a great presentation that we'd be interested in. Anyway, I love working with the committee because that is how I learn what our members need and stay right on the cutting edge. And it's just such a benefit, a huge, like I was saying, leadership, growth, and development opportunity to get out there for those employees, utility members, to network with somebody they would have never bumped into otherwise, maybe. And we have tiny utilities. We have huge utilities. That's, I think, the strength of, I've always said the strength of public power, but the same applies to investor-owned utilities. We're not competitors. We have a distinct service territory. And so the more we can collaborate and create synergy and share information on safety, on training, on efficiency, security, that's our strength. And I'm just passionate about that.
Yeah, and that's great. I love that. I think coming from a big investor-owned utility, I worked, almost 20 years before moving over to ISPC. I think the big, let's call them the big boys, right? The big investor-owned large power utilities, I think do okay when they're collaborating internally, right? There's a lot of them out there that, let's call it, have a parent company and then they have a lot of sister companies underneath them, and those do a better job collaborating. But when it comes to individual utilities, large utilities, and I'm sure there's probably some associations and such like you guys that may struggle as well, but I think we all play nice when it comes to the things like figuring out, the grid and let's call them the big topics, right? The transition towards more renewable energy and those types of things. I think the utilities and the companies play nice. But when you drop down to the level where we're kind of talking about in providing our, let's call them boots on the ground people, with the resources and such that they need, I think that's where we get into the, no, that's mine, I'm not sharing it. I think I figured it out and I'm going to keep it to myself, and I'm not going to tell, in your case, the neighboring association, whatever that is, right? We're not going to share that with them. We want to keep that. We figured it out here. And that's where I think we need to get better as an electric utility organization. Why are we, if I find that next greatest thing that's going to take, whether it makes the job more efficient, makes the job safer, whatever the case may be, maybe a little of all the above, why do I want to keep that to myself? Why would I not want to share that with other organizations so we can all get better?
That must be an advantage of public power that you've just reinforced for me, because I don't see that. I see the folks at the operations level.
Yeah.
They do want to share if they have the opportunity. Do the huge investor-owned utilities, do they do mutual aid crews?
And I think in that stuff they play nice, right? They're willing to go help their neighbors in times of distress and power outage and all that. I think we do great as an industry. I think, the majority of my career, well, I shouldn't say a majority, all my career has been either as a worker, a supervisor, or a trainer. And so when you get down to that level, I think is where we struggle to share. And it may not be because we don't want it. It may just be because we don't have the resources to do such, or we're so busy doing our own work, keeping the lights on, training our own people, we don't have time to share with others, or feel we don't have time to share with others, right? And I just think it's a big gap in our industry, is sharing at the lower levels. And I know you guys have an advantage as power associations, because that's your mission. That's what you're trying to do, right? Is make sure that all your members have the same resources and can take advantage of the same committees and training sessions and safety material and all that kind of stuff. And so,
and I think the conferences really fill that need, because, and as we see more needs, we develop new conferences. So we have the E&O conference, the Alaska Electric Utility Conference, but we also have an IT conference, an accounting and finance, a customer service, and then power supply conference and a wildfire conference or workshop. So we're bringing in people to do roundtables and panels and talk and have that opportunity to share.
Well, I think that's a great segue into our kind of last sponsor plug here. I know you're aware and familiar with this, Annie, but for those that are not, the Electric Culture of Safety, ECOS, is a grassroots nationwide safety partnership bringing the electric utility industry together in unity, building a line team. ECOS partners sharing at no cost to your line crews, sharing their knowledge, experiences, expertise, and passion for the common goal of ensuring our heroes of light return home safely to their family crew when the task is complete. ECOS now over 12,000 partners. I think that is very quickly closing in on 13,000. Partners with monthly lineman safety national webinars with relevant topics of communication, leadership, organization, training, etc. If you want to know more about ECOS, if you want to become a partner of ECOS, you can email or send an email to safetytraining@biermeters.com. Again, that's safetytraining@Bierer, Bierer meters.com, or go to electriccultureofsafety.com. Together, we're changing our electric culture of safety. This is a great effort that has been led by Beer Meters. We just had our annual get together in Orlando a couple weeks ago at the IP conference. These are webinars put on by subject matter experts throughout our industry that share their time at no cost to better our electric utility industry. And I know all of us at ISPC have given webinars. I'll be down there again on the 18th of this month to give another webinar. We have more scheduled this year. Check it out. It's just another tool to put in your toolbox to help keep your people informed and safe. Electric culture of safety. Check them out. So, Annie, believe it or not, we're coming up on an hour. It was absolutely a pleasure, learning more about yourself and learning more about NWPPA. I look forward to doing more work with you and your organization. I know we got some things coming up here the rest of this year. Just appreciate you willing to come on here and share with us.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. So till next time. The views and opinions shared in this podcast are the personal viewpoints of the participants and may not necessarily reflect the stance of the Institute for Safety and Powerline Construction and its staff. It's highly advised to consult your company management before implementing any actions or policy changes. Please support the sponsors bringing this content to you. That's it for episode number 7, The Power of Association. Again, thanks to our special guest, Annie Wittenberg from NWPPA. And we will see everybody next time on the ISPC Tailboard Talks.